Hi, I'm Sarah Benor, one of the creators of iwaited96years.com. My partners Tom, Sean, Roberta, and I created this website in October 2016. It featured 186 women ages 96 to 105 who were eager to elect Hillary Clinton. These women were born before the 19th Amendment and were for the first time voting for a woman for president of the United States. Sadly, most of the women did not live to see a female president. But now that Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee, it's possible that the few remaining women will. Today, I'm honored to speak to one of these women, Beatrice Lumpkin. Bea, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with us today.
The pleasure is mine.
Well, let me start by asking about you. You recently turned 106, is that correct?
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, how is your health?
Well, I credit it by remaining engaged and active and doing my part to bringing this moment about. And I'll also credit the good heart surgeons that gave me a new valve that works beautifully. They come in for their share of credit. And
yes,
mostly it's a feeling of solidarity when you are working with so many other people who want what is best for the American people. And we have such wonderful candidates this time around.
yes, we do.
I'm very excited.
Oh, good. So tell us, what do you think about Kamala Harris?
Kamala Harris. Well, everything I've heard is very good so far. And the policies that the woman stands for are extremely important, because at the same time Hillary was running, I was thinking of Margaret Thatcher in Great Britain and what the who had been leader of that country, and what the opposition was saying, which was Thatcher, milk snatcher, who took away so much of the basic benefit. So this is not only a woman I'm working for, but it's someone who will defend our democratic rights. And while I do not agree with continuing to send US-made weapons all over the world, by electing Kamala, I have my right to say that. And under a Trump dictatorship, I would lose that basic right. So, real happy about Kamala's And I feel it's so close. I feel the people are with her.
Yeah. Yeah. And I should say today is August 27th, 2024, in case people are watching this later. I want to turn to something that you wrote in 2016. Shortly after Trump won the election in 2016, we turned to you and many of the other women who waited 96 years to get your advice on how to move forward. We collected this advice in a book, We the Resilient, Wisdom for America from Women Born Before Suffrage. And in that book, you wrote, I believe that young people will lead our country towards a better, more humane society. My message to them is don't waste time grieving. Instead, organize and continue to fight for the rights of the 99%. We older people will help you turn our country around. Let's form a grand new intergenerational alliance for progress. Well, B, I think you were right. Thank you to you for all of the organizing, the intergenerational organizing you were involved in. And Joe Biden won the election in 2020. And now we're at a historical moment where Kamala Harris might be the first woman and the first woman of color to be elected president of the United States. So I want to ask you, do you think that the Harris campaign should make a big deal of the fact that Kamala Harris is a woman and a woman of color, or should they just let that fact speak for itself?
All of the above.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. In the words that you submitted for the website, you were one of the few women to mention race. Here's something that you wrote when you submitted your words for the website, I waited 96 years. You said, when I got old enough to understand how proud I was to learn what the suffragettes dared to do to win women's right to vote. But the fight went on until African Americans won the right to vote. We'll never let anyone take that away from us. So I want to ask you, what role did you play in the fight for civil rights in this country?
Well, you'd have to go back to 1933 when nine young African American teenagers, because the youngest was only 13, were framed up on a rape charge and were headed to the electric chair. And I became involved in the international fight because it went beyond the United States to free the Scottsboro Nine. And we did save them from execution, although some served too many years in jail. And based on the organizing of the CIO, which began in 1935, and I worked as a CIO organizer. I temporarily left college and worked as a CIO organizer for a couple of years in the organizing laundry workers. And of course, if you want to read more, I wrote my autobiography, which goes up to the election of Obama.
I would love to read that. Is that available in bookstores, on Amazon?
Yes, it's international publishers. And at this moment, till the end of August, so you have to hurry. It's half price. And
Okay,
it's
I will.
quite inexpensive, but you'd have to order online, of course, from international publishers.
And what's the title of the book?
And I even like the title. uh, excuse me. I'm on an interview, Soren, so come right in. That's my grandson. um, oh, you can wave.
We can say hi to Jonathan.
The title is Joy in the Struggle, My Life and Love.
Joy in the Struggle. That's beautiful. Okay, so I will definitely check that out, and I hope that anyone who's watching this video will also purchase your book. And so tell us more about what role you played in labor organizing and the struggle for civil rights.
And I would say my primary role was as an organizer. But then I married a man who, and that's my life and love part. We were married for 62 years and he died in 2000. I got to play a big role as Frank Lumpkin's wife when Wisconsin Steel, that was in Chicago, closed, putting 3,000 people on the street. He went to work and the gate was locked. They had not even 5 minutes notice. And they had a company union, which was quite corrupt. And so he went out and organized the 2,700 that were under the company union contract. And then we got a wonderful lawyer who worked 5 years without pay, just hoping we would win, which we did. And I organized the Women's Committee, which was a way of involving the families and the whole community. So this fight went on for almost 17 years, which probably something of a record.
Wow.
And while we didn't win everything, we did win almost $20 million that saved a lot of homes and made it very difficult for other companies to try to pull the same thing. They were trying to dump the pension.
Wow. And
so
what year did you
that was kind of a big thing. And then I'm still a delegate for the Chicago Teachers Union at this point, and a delegate to the Chicago Federation of Labor.
Wow.
But I'm recognizing old age, and I'm not going to run for office again.
Okay. I think that's fair at age 106. So you mentioned your husband, Frank Lumpkin, and he was African American, right?
Yes.
In what year did you get married?
1949.
Okay. And how did your relatives and friends react to your relationship?
Well, my mother and father were political when they immigrated under after the revolution of 1905 against the Tsar. The Russian Tsar was lost. They had to leave the country because they had been involved. So you could say I come by it honestly.
So your family was happy about your relationship.
um, well, they were hoping we could withstand the pressure. And as far as his family went, I got to know all of them. I sometimes joke and say I married his family because both they were all wonderful people, and I met them first and then got to know him later because he stayed in the Merchant Marine after World War II for about 3 or 4 more years, and then he came home. And there you were.
Wow. So you wrote about the role of FDR and the New Deal in helping America recover from the Great Depression. And you talked about the importance of organizing. You said millions of people organized and united, overcoming racism, sexism, anti-immigrant bias, and red baiting. You talked about your experiences with sexism in the workplace. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I went from being a laundry worker, and by the way, with a college degree which had been free at Hunter College, to with World War II coming, jobs picked up, and I went into electronics and became an assistant engineer. And eventually ended up teaching, which I retired from. And your question?
About sexism in the workplace.
Oh, yes. So along that job pyramid that I climbed, at one point, I was the editor of the Night Kit. You're way too young to remember this. Electronics build it yourself kit. No, I would write the manuals on how to build a TV set or an oscilloscope, that kind of thing. And I had Well, for whatever reason, on the face of it, to save money, the CEO of this company is about 100 people working for them, said, for what I'm paying you, I could get a man.
Hmm.
And it was before the 1954, was it, Civil Rights Act? And it wasn't illegal for him to say and do that. And that's what he did. He got someone I had trained, and I got my pink slip.
Mm. Wow, that's terrible. And then you did talk about the 1965 Civil Rights Act, and you praised it for preventing other women from experiencing that kind of overt discrimination. And you wrote, based on my experience, I think it pays to fight for your rights. That's the way we can win equality. So what are some things that you're fighting for now, or that you think people should be fighting for?
Well, there's still a big wage gap, between and it's still a wage gap up even between people doing the same work, male and female. Where we have made gains, and that's one of the main things on the ballot right now, because when it comes to equality for women, I don't know what to call Trump, a sex criminal, which he is. And for younger women who didn't live through the period of a German and Italian fascism, what was the role that the Nazis had for women? And it's kind of appropriate. It could be something that was KKK, which in German stood for Kinder, Kuchen und Kirche. Children, the kitchen where you cook, and the church. And that was their slogan. And Trump is someplace worse than that.
Mm.
I can't find the words to describe what a woman hater he is.
So if Kamala Harris is elected, what impact do you think that will have on the country?
First place, defeating fascism will do more than preserving democracy. We all know we don't have a perfect democracy, and far from it. If we did, for one thing, it would be, as the slogan went, one person, one vote. And we don't have that with the
Electoral college?
electoral college. Okay. I am expecting, because the only way we'll win this election is by creating very strong organizations and on the ground among people, among the rank and file, that will come out of the election, not only with a strong presidential team, but also be in a position to immediately advance. One side of this that I didn't mention is the upsurge in union organizing. And that got a special push from the UAW. I thank them for that. So we're not just fighting to keep what we have, which is far from adequate. I'm not sure what day it is that women would have to start working like 3 months earlier of the year now to get the same salary men do. Like they need to work 15 months instead of 12.
Mm.
So I see a great strengthening of the union movement, coincident with the winning of the election.
Mm.
And so on not only the federal front and hopefully Congress as well, but also down the line, because the state positions and the governorships, as we sure know in Chicago, because Governor Abbott, of Texas, is doing this terrible thing to immigrants, putting them on the bus and sending them to Chicago and New York and maybe a couple other cities. Mm-hmm. So I'm hopeful on many fronts. It's a good time to be living.
Amazing. What other advice do you have for the Harris campaign? What other advice do you have for Kamala Harris's campaign?
I would advise them to make peace in the world part of their program. Because the way the world is made up now, with economically, it's really one world. You can't just have isolated wars going on. And with the nuclear weapons, I don't even like to think about that. That's what I'm just so glad we survived 4 years of Trump, 2016 to 2020, without Trump using nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
So it's like the world got a second chance.
Mm. Mm.
And we have to be very vigilant, because winning the election at the polls doesn't mean a thing to Trump or the MAGA people. So we have to be alert to the violence I think they're going to use, whatever the vote is.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to vote by absentee ballot or in person?
I got a little frightened about my mail ballot and the last election. So I'm going to vote early, but at an early voting place where
Okay,
I see my vote go in. I don't want to take a chance.
smart. Well, let's hope that that vote is successful and that we finally get the first female president in the United States 104 years after women got the right to vote and 106 years after you were born.
I'm very optimistic, but it will take hard work.
Absolutely.
And we made that the focus of the intergenerational retreat that we had here in Chicago on January 20th. And we're going to put out a video called Get Out the Vote.
Wonderful. Well,
So,
thank Beatrice Lumpkin for all that you have done in your very long and productive life to make this country and world a better place. And thank you so much for speaking with us today.
and thank you for the opportunity, and especially for getting back on the job. We didn't make it with Hillary, but we will with Kamala.
I certainly hope so. Thank you so much. Take care.